You know what else? Popcorn and great sense of humor. Great sense of humor. Great sense of humor. It smells great.
Was the glasses haven't they come up yet, have they? They've started. David, are you want to go and see Hayley?
Yeah, they're wondering if you're going to the ladies. You know.
They're going to take me down the house, so that's spot on. And all I need is, yeah, and then at the beginning of the ceremony, I just need somebody to give me a note, everybody up. Right, and then I get everybody up standing. Magic, okay, thank you.
Away from the mic.
missed the last message about those wee glasses. I was talking to the celebrant. Do you have an update? Roger, Roger. Just to double check as well, are
Ladies and gentlemen, could you please be upstanding to welcome the bridal party? Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Kennedy, and I will be conducting Hayley and Ross's wedding ceremony for them here today. May I extend on behalf of the bride and groom and their families a very warm welcome to you all. Hayley and Ross have decided to have a ceremony that reflects how they feel and their belief in loving and respecting one another. And quite simply, their ceremony will be about the things that bring us together in life rather than the things that divide us. One of those things, of course, is the love that exists between two people who have chosen to spend the rest of their lives together. The ceremony is intended to be relaxed and informal so that we can all enjoy the experience and make it truly a day for Ross and Hayley to remember for the rest of their lives. Now, I asked them both to send me a few words on what they thought of each other without the other knowing what they had said. And this is what they said and sent. Now, for the teachers among you, you would know this as 2 stars and a wish. Ross says, she's funny, not always on purpose. She's always supportive of whatever I say or do. And I wish she would cut her hair. It's like living in a hay bale when she brushes it all out. Thank you, Ross. Hayley says, I think the things about Ross I love the most are how much he cares for everyone around him. I don't think I've ever met a compassionate person in my life. That, and he's very charming. The only wish I would have is that he stops meddling in my cooking. For example, I'll make him a lovely dinner, and he'll come into the kitchen and add something random into the mix and completely change the meal. And only sometimes for the better. Thank you, Hayley. Can we give them a big cheer for that, please? And so, to these two who stand before us, how do we find ourselves here today? What is their story? Ross and Hayley, they met in college. Hayley was 2 years above Ross. Even though they are the same age, Ross just took a bit longer to decide where he wanted to go in life. They were taking part in a group activity, and neither of them were particularly impressed to be there. Hayley kept letting Ross know that she'd rather be anywhere else than in that moment. Not that Ross took it personally. They spent a long time as just friends, and they only really connected the dots about a year of spending time together. They would go out in large groups, but it was Hayley that made the first move, and they both eventually gave in to each other, playing hard to get. Their first real date, they went to see the latest Pirates of the Caribbean film, and they spent a lot of time in the cinema, mostly because it meant they were able to get time to themselves, as both of the family homes were chaotic at the time. They really enjoyed going for drives. Hayley did the driving. And just being able to chat to each other meant a lot to them. Both as they were just partners, they were also friends. Now, not long after starting their relationship, they took a week-long trip to Berlin. Originally, they had planned a more local trip, but Hayley took offence at someone's comment, and all of a sudden, they had flights and a hotel booked before you could even blink. It was a really good trip, although Ross thinks Hayley is still recovering from the walking they had to do. Also, back then, Hayley was perhaps the most picky eater in the world, so it took maybe 2 hours of intense persuasion not to have McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the entire trip. They eventually just had to settle on just a McD's breakfast. I did ask them what their initial thoughts were of each other at the time, and Ross thought that Hayley was aggressive and grumpy as a tiny dog looking to fight a bear. Although she's kind of unassuming, she sees red and throws herself in for a fight straight away, which she absolutely loves sometimes. Hayley, she thought Ross was cool back then. Once things got rolling between them both, they went fast. Within a year, they'd moved into a flat together. Although they didn't get much time together when they first moved in together, as Hayley was working early days and afternoons, and Ross was working lots of late nights, so they did pass like ships in the night. Hayley, when they first moved in together, had no idea how anything worked, hadn't cooked in her life, and she had to learn how an iron worked. The first time she ever cooked for Ross, she mistook the recipe's request for 2 cloves of garlic to mean 1 whole bulb, plus extra garlic powder. Legend says Ross's breast still isn't the same, although on the plus side, Dracula would run a mile. So for about 2 years, they both lived with Ross's twin brother, and usually things went okay. And if anything, it was a good excuse to get Hayley used to living with other people that were not her slaves. They also, at one point, had 3 very aggressive hamsters, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, which, as ironic, caused they were all girls. Because of this, they had to keep them all in separate cages, one of which was less secure than the others. At one point, they came home to see a tiny hamster darting across the living room of the flat, heading to munch on the TV cables. They all managed to survive far too long, and Ross still hasn't forgiven the woman at Pets at Home. And moving together to Reading was definitely quite the adventure. They have now been together for 6 years. They enjoy spending time together, watching movies, walking, cooking together, and recently they have started playing the PlayStation together, although only games where Hayley can't die, otherwise she gets angry and tries to break the controller on Ross's head. Although neither of them are huge travellers, they both enjoy more local day trips. On top of that, there were a couple of trips to London and some overnight stays in the north of Scotland, enjoying late-night hot tub discussions under the freezing February stars. Ross believes that Hayley is by far the smartest of the two of them, and had she not got the job she did, they wouldn't have been able to have the adventures they have had recently. Talking about misadventures, Ross once got stranded in the snow at Hayley's parents' house after not heeding everyone else's warning that it would happen. Now, marriage was always on the cards, and was also on the lips of Hayley, as I'm told that Hayley wouldn't shut up about it all the time. This was probably spurred on by Ross's papa, who at even the slightest moment of silence would question whether a ring had been bought and if he had to buy a hat. I don't know, did he buy a hat?
I hope not.
Now, Hayley had been working on her dissertation most of the time. She had no idea the weather was changing, let alone that something like a proposal was being planned by Ross. Ross decided it was time to buy a ring and did with no help or outward influence, which could have went very, very wrong, knowing his track record for fashion. But thankfully it didn't. 2 days before the proposal, Hayley kept refusing to pay for anything. As her words were, "I can't afford anything. I've just spent £180 on glasses." If ever Ross was going to give the game away early, it would have been due to this. Ross asked Hayley's dad, Stuart, for permission. Unfortunately, not only is he very deaf, but doesn't enjoy lots of conversation. So when he didn't hear the question, he chose to nod and say, "Yeah, that's nice." Safe to say, there was one shocked face during the proposal that should have been the one on the gig that knew about it. Now, Hayley's uncle Brian had scheduled a photo shoot and dinner with Ross and Hayley's family to celebrate her graduation. In retrospect, it probably would have been a good idea for Ross to give him the heads up on the proposal ambush, but Ross obviously didn't think that far ahead. They all gathered in Balloch Park, done up in all their fineries, and whilst no one was looking, perfect timing, Ross got down on one knee, and before either a question or a yes came, they were both sidelined by what can only be described as a rugby tackle from Hayley's mum. Hayley did say yes, and it was celebrations all around, and for most were there apart from Ross's siblings. Maya had perhaps the most surprising response when, upon hearing the news, she just let out a sigh and said, "Jesus." Glenn made a noise that would make the creator of the dog whistle jealous. Hayden already knew it was coming, and Eve was just excited about the idea of a party. For all the park, once the shock had worn off and the photos were taken, they all went out for a very nice lunch before Hayley and Ross went home to have a nap, because that kind of adrenaline is exhausting. So, if they both disappear after the ceremony, they're just going for a nap. And that brings us here today, to now. They have made it. The marriage ceremony provides the opportunity for family and friends together in one place to import this message of love and commitment, and for everyone to celebrate the happiness of the married couple. Because you are all very special to them, they have asked you to be here to share their happiness and their joy as they take these important steps together in publicly declaring their love and commitment to each other. Thank you all on their behalf for being here to witness their very special day. I also should mention, for those who are on the camera, thank you to them as well, and we'll give you a wave and say hello. Come on. Thank you. Now, to reinforce their family bonds, Hayley and Ross are going to have a traditional Scottish welcome of families by drinking from a quaich. So can I ask Catherine to step forward, and could I also ask Avril to come forward? Now, in a close and personal way, this marriage is uniting of these two families. By uniting, each of you joins the family of the other to bear its strengths and promises into the future, as it lies with you in the ability to do so. And having this acknowledged is an important matter. For this reason, I would ask this of the families from which you come. Catherine, do you, representing your family, accept Hayley as Ross's lifelong partner and thereby as one of your own?
I do.
Thank you. Avril, do you, representing your family, accept Ross as Hayley's lifelong partner and thereby as one of your own?
Of course I do.
Thank you. Mums, will you please pour the contents of the glasses you hold into this quake? Then as the liquid mingles and unites to become one, so do your families join and become one. You've made your vows of commitment. Hayley and Ross, you will now drink from the quake to seal the promises that have been made on behalf of your families. No, not at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, can you give the mums a big round of applause, please? Ross and Hayley, you're about to take the step in an adventure which began some years ago. You became an integral part in one another's lives. This brings us to the heart of today's ceremony, when Hayley and Ross will exchange their vows of commitment. And as a symbol of their love and commitment, a reminder of the promises they will make to each other, today Hayley and Ross will also exchange wedding rings. These rings are a symbol of the unbroken circle of love. Hayley and Ross, these rings will become a part of you. They will remain in your hands for the lifetime of your relationship. Your hands will age, the rings will wear, but the symbolism, the ring embodies, and the bond that you share will remain. Greg. Hayden's got the rings. Hayden, sorry. Don't know who Greg is. There he is. Where's Greg? Hi, Greg.
Well done, Greg.
Ross, if you will now make your vow to Hayley, please repeat after me. I, Ross Thomas,
I, Ross Thomas,
accept you, Hayley Proudlock,
accept you, Hayley Proudlock,
in marriage
as
my lawfully wedded wife.
wife.
Do you promise to love her, honour her and protect her, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to her as long as you both shall live?
I do.
Thank you. Ross, will you place the ring on Hayley's finger? Hayley, you will now make your vow to Ross. Please repeat after me. I, Hayley Proudlock,
I, Hayley Proudlock,
accept you, Ross Thomas,
accept you, Ross Thomas,
in marriage
as
my lawfully wedded husband.
lawfully wedded husband.
Do you promise to love him, honour him and protect him, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, and in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to him as long as you both shall live?
I do.
Thank you, Hayley. Will you place the ring on Ross's finger? Thank you. Ross and Hayley, you have chosen to marry and have pledged your love, respect and commitment for each other. You have promised to stand by each other through whatever your life together may bring. Following the declarations made before me and in the presence of these witnesses, it's now my pleasant duty, Ross and Hayley, to pronounce you husband and wife. Ross, you may kiss your bride. Ladies and gentlemen, can I now ask Hayden and Eve to now join the bride and groom in order to witness the signing of the marriage schedule. And whilst we are signing the register, Scott and Lauren are going to come up and read, so you can welcome Scott and Lauren also, please. Thank you.
Extract from Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. You can give without loving, but you can never love without giving. The great acts of love are done by those who are habitually performing small acts of kindness. We pardon to the extent that we love. Love is knowing that even when you are alone, you will never be lonely again. And great happiness of life is a conviction that we are loved, loved for ourselves, and even loved in spite of ourselves. Relativity, Albert Einstein. Gravitation cannot be held responsible for people falling in love. How on earth can you explain in terms of chemistry and physics so important a biological phenomenon as first love? Put your hand on a stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with that special girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity.
Well, both these poems are written by Ross's papa, and he didn't buy the hat in the end. So the first one, entitled To Catherine and Christopher on their wedding day. On the day each were given, a token made in love. It encircles every happy wish and blessed by God above. They shine through all the darkness, so small yet strength they bring. Always be with you both, your golden wedding rings. And the second poem is entitled Betty. It says, nothing is more certain that day will follow night. Nothing is more certain than darkness follows light. Of what I want to do, nothing is more certain that I spend my life with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll not be too much longer, so please feel free to chat. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, guys.
What are you doing here? This is illegal if you don't get this right.
Wait until we're going up and then I'll grab one. Okay, I'm just going to fluff you then. Fluff me.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. You stand facing.
Ladies and gentlemen, would everyone welcome from the very first time the very happy married couple, Ross and Hayley, now Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. I'm sure you've all felt warm by this occasion and recognised today as being a meaningful day for everyone here. It's brought families together and reunited friendships. May you always reflect upon these proceedings and recall the happiness of this day. Finally, I would like to give my own good wishes to Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. If I may give some advice in the form of a short but aptly meaningful poem. To keep your marriage brimming with love in the loving cup. Whenever you're wrong, admit it. Whenever you're right, shut up. On behalf of Hayley and Ross, I would like to once again thank you all very much for being here to witness this very special occasion. So if you're able, would you please be upstanding, as it gives me the greatest pleasure once again to present to you all the happy couple, Hayley and Ross, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. Okay, go for the music. Thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of your day. We're just waiting for the music to start. Take your time, take your time. Come on, let's give it up for them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you all stay within the planetarium, you are now going to be given a small show. Thank you.